The one Celtic fans view this evening. It is the night before Celtic take on Ajax in Italy. Celtic take on Ajax in Italy as part of the Como Cup. Yes, the Como Cup. Will we see Celtic play Alex Bailly and Nico Kuhn? Alex Bailly's dyed his hair platinum blonde. Nearly didn't even recognise him, says Michelle. Has he? Who do you think he is? Dyes Maida? Anyway, that's a bit bizarre that he's bleached his hair. But anyway, Michelle's just put a link up for the Como game. And it's not working. That link's not working, but we'll just do that because that link's not working. So anyway, yeah, Brendan Rodgers, when you look at the team, well, before we talk about the team, there's the players, a few of the Japanese players were out for a meal last night. Obviously had a night off before they were travelling to Italy with Celtic this afternoon, and they had a nice little meal out. Rio Hatate taking them to a nice little fancy restaurant in Inamura. And our man, will he be the number one striker? There's a lot to talk about this evening. Obviously, strikers are one of those. And there's an interesting story coming out about a club that has put in an offer for a Celtic player. That story will be coming up in just a minute. But before we talk about that, we talk about the players that were in training today and what the heck is going on. Because when you look at the players that were in training from the Celtic FC website, it was great to see Cameron Carter-Vickers back in training. Alistair Johnson back in training as well with a nice smile on his face. Dyson Maeda looking as serious as possible. And James Forrest just lapping it up. There's the man himself, the new striker for Celtic, Benji and James Forrest. And there's the midfielders just talking away. Rio Hatate. Nobody could touch me type thing. And it's going to be interesting to see how much game time tomorrow that our new striker gets. And what does it say for the strikers that are there? And are Celtic still looking for another striker? And there's a player that was quite a shock to see him in training, because all the noise at the weekend was that Celtic had accepted a bid. Celtic had accepted a bid, and you see him there, for Marco Tilio. What's Marco Tilio still doing at Celtic? I thought we had got rid of him. But no, he's still there and he's training, and it looks like he's travelled to Como. Will he then travel on to his next club from the Celtic training camp? Obviously Celtic are not going to leave him out of training and leave him at home. He's still part of the squad. So I've no idea what's happening with Marco Tilio and his move to Rapid Vienna, because it was all pretty much, it was alleged at the weekend that it was done and dusted, and you see the rest of the players there all going through their paces in the glorious weather that it was at Lennoxtown today. And I've got to say that the location that they're all going to they'll be there tonight at Como in Italy on that lake. It's a fantastic stadium. It's one of the stadiums, actually. If it wasn't Ajax that were playing, I think you would have got a lot more Celtic fans maybe heading over to that one, because the location itself is just absolutely amazing. And it's one of those stadiums that you'd like to say that, yes, I've been to that stadium. Dyson's a big worry. His value will get higher. Well, before we talk about Dyson, we need to talk about a player that has had some transfer speculation, and he's even had a bid. Yes, Bolton Wanderers have had a bid turned down by Celtic, but they are still hanging on to find out if they're going to get their man, which is a weird one. They can't afford to play Celtic waiting game, is this article says, as Bolton Wanderers are finding themselves racing to get in some much needed business before the opening day of the campaign. They're still on the lookout for a striker. They're still on the lookout for a striker. They had the interest in Celtic striker Johnny Kenny, but his performance for Celtic in pre-season are delaying any move. Is delaying. So because Johnny Kenny is playing so well at the moment, it's delaying any move. Bolton will now have to simply consider moving on, or at least for the time being. Bolton reportedly had a bid of £500,000 rejected for the former Shamrock Rovers attacker earlier in this window, and now Bolton Wanderers find themselves in limbo, it says. Brendan seemingly weighing up whether to keep him as part of the Celtic first team squad or send him out on loan rather than sanction a sale for the 22-year-old. So it looks like Bolton Wanderers are hanging on to see if there's maybe going to be some kind of deal to be done. And will Johnny Kenny go out to Bolton on loan? That would be a shock if it happened, because right now, and maybe that's why Brendan Rodgers has been putting Adam Ida on the back burner, it's to give Johnny Kenny just a good run out. It's a weird one, with just, 11 days to go or something till the first game of the season. It's still mucking about at this end. Do you think that Johnny Kenny should be put out on loan if he's not kept? So there's the quiz question for tonight. There's a poll question. Should Johnny Kenny be put out on loan? Yes or no? When you look at the strikers that we've just brought in Shin Yamada at Celtic. Adam Ida he's still a fantastic striker. I don't care what anyone says. He scored 20 goals last season playing part-time. Can't believe that we have sent away Adam Montgomery when we still haven't got a replacement left back for sure yet. I think that we're going with Namura, Michelle. Voting no for this one, Baz. I think that we are going with Inamura as our backup to Kieran Tierney, unfortunately, for any young player at Celtic. But it is good for... Well, that's just... We could go down the rabbit hole of, has the transfer window been up to Brendan Rodgers' expectations this year? And I think the transfer window is maybe going the way that Brendan Rodgers thought it would go, and it will be a case that he will repeat something similar to his comments in the previous pre-season. Do you think we are weaker going into this season? Yes, we are. As we stand just now, we are weaker going into this season. When you look at the playing squad, I mean, this is a squad that has travelled, not including some of the younger players, obviously. We have travelled with the three goalkeepers, Kasper Schmeichel, Sinisalo and Ross Duhan. Alistair Johnson back in training, fantastic. Liam Scales, Austin Trusty, Cameron Carter-Vickers, Inamura, Ralston and Kieran Tierney. It leaves us one down at the back. Stephen Welsh is obviously out injured. I thought I seen Stephen Welsh with a beard in the pre-season pictures, but I wasn't sure if it was him or not. I don't think it was. I think it was maybe one of the younger team. But it would be interesting to see how long Stephen Welsh is out for. Do we need backup in defence? Yes, we need at least one defender to come in. When you look at the midfield players, Kwon's meant to be on his way out the window. I haven't seen Kwon in training. I don't even think he's training with the first team. You've got Luke McCowan, Arne Engels, Paulo Bernardo, Rio Hatate, Callum McGregor. It means that we're a couple of players short in the midfield player also. The forward positions is where it looks kind of a lot busier and healthier, even though Brendan Rodgers still does want to bring in players in the forward positions. We've got Benji, who can play in the centre holding midfield role, and then he can also play as a winger. He's actually classed as a forward by Celtic. We've got Adam Ida Yang, who is still speculation to a move, but I don't think that that's going to happen now. I think that we've managed to scare a certain team off. Shin Yamada, It's going to be interesting to see what he looks like tomorrow. He's going to play against a decent side, against Como. And you've got to remember, I mean, Como have just gained, they have just went up to the top league in Italy. So it'll be a good test, considering there are two ex-Celtic players at Como. Then you've got Callum Osmond. I think the jury is still out on Callum Osmond. I don't think that he is a player that would make a significant difference to the way that Celtic play and the amount of goals scored by Celtic this season. He's a third choice striker at best. Marco Tilio, how he's still here, I have no idea. When it was said that the deal was done and dusted, maybe Celtic are trying to save a bit of an aeroplane fare, and maybe they've told Marco, just take all your bags, just bring everything with you, because Marco's meant to be staying at a hotel in Glasgow. He won't have a residence in Glasgow. He'll be staying in a hotel that Celtic put him up in. And then there's Johnny Kenny, who Bolton Wanderers still want and may be trying to get him on loan. Hence the reason that there's noise coming out of Bolton that they're not sure what's happening. Dane Murray should start for Celtic, says Sam. I think when it comes to the start of the season, if Cameron Carter-Vickers is match fit, you won't. I know what you're saying. We should be saying Hoopy the Hound out on loan. We'll talk about that later. When you look at it, the team. Let me just say. Dane Murray. When you look at the team, now that Cameron Carter-Vickers is back, Dane Murray is going to be. I mean, he's not in the first team squad. He is a B team player that's stepped up. There are a number of other B team players that have taken Celtic have taken with them. I don't think that Dane Murray will start the first game of the season. I think Cameron Carter-Vickers and Austin Trusty will be the back pairing. As much as I'd love to see Dane Murray, I think he will play the same number of games as what Stephen Welsh would, unfortunately. He's going to be in and around the first team to put pressure on Austin Trusty and Liam Scales. And will he start the first game of the season? I don't think so. The manager will go with tried and tested and experienced. And you've got to remember that the first game of the season is also a nod to the players from the last season. It's a little nod to them, and it's a little, yep, you get the first game in because you won us the title last year, and then after the first game of the season, it's like it's forgotten about. Everything's forgotten about. What you did last season's forgotten about. So it's a brand new season now. It's a clean slate. Everyone just, it's a clean slate for everybody. Everyone's got the exact same chance at this time of year to state their place for a permanent position within the team. Right, let's jump into some of the comments. I see Cameron Carter-Vickers and Johnson back in training. Yep, they are back in training, and you must have missed the little slideshow we had up of the players in training. Good to see them enjoying a little bit of sunshine. Kieran Tierney loving the fact that he's back at Celtic, our midfield duo. Our Japanese defender and forward. It'll be interesting to see what Shin Yamada's like. And there's Johnny Kenny there with Paulo Bernardo. I mean, the squad is starting to look like the squad that will be at the start of the season. The fact that we've kept Big Adam Ida in kind of cold storage. We have kept him in cold storage. I mean, I know we need players in, but I think, see, when you look at it from a Brendan Rodgers perspective, if you're the manager of Celtic and you've got one striker that can score you 20 goals, you've got a winger who could score you 30 goals, but you've got, at this time of year, you know what you're going to get with Adam Ida. Adam Ida doesn't have to prove himself in training games this pre-season. Brendan Rodgers knows, likes and trusts him, and he knows what he can get with him. The pre-season games so far have been seen at the beginning was to see how good Callum Osmond was. And he's not up to the standard that I think that we need at the club. Is there a hun in? Michelle could have done it. Hide user from channel. There we go. Did I not set up the... Let me just go into this because I must have missed a setting tonight. Can't have that kind of people in the chat at all. At all. Let me just go in and check this. Yeah, there we go. The free for all. There we go. I smell a hun. Hun pish patter. Yeah, they don't get them on this channel. And that's why I put it to, you've got to be subscribed for 20 minutes or more. Because, let's face it, we just talk shite anyway, aren't they? And this is what it looks like on a big club channel. Anyway, there it goes. So there's 146 votes in already. Should Johnny Kenny be put out on loan? It's an interesting one. And if Brendan Rodgers wants to try and make a young striker better and give him some first team football, if Dyson's going to be used as a winger, I mean, all it gives us is Adam Ida up front and Shin Yamada, right? And you're thinking, right, that's fine. There's two, but then you've got Callum Osmond and Johnny Kenny. 4 doesn't go into 1. Unless you're at some kind of kinky caravan park in, in the UK. Or a festival. Oh, Jesus. But anyway, Callum Osmond, it is all pointing, unfortunately for Johnny Kenny, if Bolton Wanderers have been told he may be going out on loan, but Celtic want to see what he's like. I mean, this article that I'm reading coming out, Bolton had a £500,000 rejected bid. Celtic want to see what he's like over the pre-season. He was very impressive, especially in friendlies against Sporting and Newcastle. That has further delayed any possible move for Johnny Kenny by Bolton. But it said that Bolton are still hanging on to see if they can get a hold of Johnny Kenny, whether it be as a signature or on loan. Now, that comes with a caveat because Johnny Kenny enters the final year of his contract. Johnny Kenny enters the last year of his contract this season. So if he is to go out on loan, he will need to sign a new contract at Celtic before they sanction the loan. Because if they don't, they'll lose Johnny Kenny for nothing. And Johnny Kenny says that he wants to sign another deal at Celtic, but it's going to come down to the reality is how many games he's going to get realistically. And how much minutes will he get into the game against Ajax tomorrow? Yes, we do play Ajax tomorrow. Ajax take on Celtic in the Como Cup, which starts at 7:30 Celtic Park time. You can only see it on Sky, on Celtic TV, and we will be doing a watch along for that one again. So make sure that you join us for that. We will be starting before the game as per normal. We'll start well before the game. We will get the team as it is announced, and then we just carry straight on. We will just carry straight on. on to the game at 7:30 kickoff, which is good. So tell me your team in the comments, in the comment section. Tell me your team for tomorrow night, because I'm going to tell you mine, and I think it's going to be a surprise. A lot of people this season, Baz, I think he is as well, John. You know, you don't score 20 goals coming on for half a season and not be a decent player. You know, I think he will surprise a lot of people this season. Anyway, my team for tomorrow night is Kasper Schmeichel. This is the starting 11. It's not the team that will necessarily finish the second half, but it's the starting 11. Kasper Schmeichel in goals. Alistair Johnston, Liam Scales and Cameron Carter-Vickers, with Kieran Tierney at the back. I think that will be the starting line tomorrow. Scales inside Cameron Carter-Vickers for that little bit of stability. Cameron Carter-Vickers will play 60 minutes maximum. He may play 45 minutes, but he'll definitely... Will he play the 60 minutes? I think he may. I think Cameron Carter-Vickers will play 60 minutes tomorrow. In the midfield, I'm going to go with Captain Marvel himself, Callum McGregor, Rio Hatate and Arne Engels, as well as Benji sitting in beside Callum McGregor, which then gives us forwards of Dyson Maeda and Adam Ida. I think Adam Ida will start this one. Will he start? I think he will. And then Yang. Has to be it, isn't it? That's one too many. No, it's not. Yeah, I think we'll sit with... Well, it'll be a 4-2-3-1 formation again. So I think it will definitely be a 4-3-2-1 formation used tomorrow night. The board are holding us everything ambitious back. There's not too many players signed the week before. If you look at historically, there's not too many players signed the week before the league starts. We're at that lull point where Brendan Rodgers will be using... We're away from Celtic Park until Monday. Right, so we play the game tomorrow night. Yeah, no, that's 12. I did say it was one too many. Jamesy boy. We're away from Celtic Park until Monday, they fly back. So they've got the training camp. Brendan Rodgers is out of sight. Stephen Johnson is in the house with a fantastic super chat. Thanks for that, Stephen. He will use the time to assess players that will potentially go out on loan and players that may not get enough game time. Do you know, we've lost quite a number of players from the squad already. Will we go in and spend decent money on anyone, really? I'm thinking the closer that we get, is there any using the big defender? No. I'm starting to think that you'll be lucky if Celtic spend 15 million this window. And I think that Brendan Rodgers and Celtic may be playing a game of Russian roulette with the Champions League qualifier. They may be trying to hold off to as near to that qualifier as possible. But on the other hand, you know, Brendan Rodgers has to amass a squad that's good enough to win that game, whoever it is that we play. Because God forbid that we lose that game and we go down into the Europa. Because that would be a nightmare. That's a potential nightmare in the making. Especially if the mob across the road, they then go on to qualify. And if that does happen, that's a game changer. That's a game changer that I don't want to see happen. If we qualify the Champions League, we'll then spend Baz. I've got a funny feeling. We've got when the window closes, when the transfer window when the Champions League games are, the qualifiers, I think we've got around about 3 or 4 days until the close of the window. That's when the majority of any potential big signings may be made by Celtic. Once they guarantee the Champions League money's in the bank. And I think that that's what Celtic are seriously doing this year again. Because we are not guaranteed Champions League 30-40 million, I think that the board are playing it safe. which will be annoying the living daylights out of Brendan Rodgers privately. I don't think he'll say in public yet. I think he'll say that towards the end of the window. I was thinking that exact scenario unfolding today, but says Brown Warrior. I just think it is. When you see that, will the board aren't going to facilitate a shitload of signings between now and the first game of the season. Not a chance. I just can't see it. The board will be happy that Brendan Rodgers is out the country. Right? He flew out to Italy today. He has a game tomorrow. Friday, they'll go into maybe a half day's afternoon training session. And then Saturday, they'll have a morning training session. I don't know if they'll have a double training session in Italy. I don't know if they've stepped down on the double training sessions. Maybe just be down to the one a day now in Italy, and they're focusing on more the tactical side of the game. The bit rate's lower. Well, who cares? Sort that later. But yeah, when you look at it, it could be the fact that, we're just hanging off, because the way that Celtic do things is always late. It's always late. If we don't sign anyone until after the Champions, I think we'll sign players, but you won't get any big money buys. And I think that is now. We are well run by our board, are we not? Yeah, we are, Des. We are well run by the board, but at the same time, you want the board to have a little bit of ambition, and the board to have the foresight to get the players in before the Champions League qualifier, to make sure that we get into the Champions League qualifier and get into the Champions League. And it's the board that have done this year after year after year after year after year. They've done it many, many times. And it's held Celtic back. I mean, it was funny because I read an article today talking about Gordon Strachan and the 5-0 gubbin at Bratislava. Was it Bratislava? I can't remember. Anyway, who cares? It was a long time ago. Does Hoopy get the tick treatment? Who knows? The money means nothing to us fans. We want quality on the park. Yeah, and I think Brendan Rodgers would like quality as well. But it's quality at a price. And the price this season for quality is £1 million, £2 million max. Unfortunately, we've went back into that market, and it's something that the Celtic fans, we didn't want to do. I mean, I said last season, don't be surprised if, and maybe that was naive by me. I mean, I said after buying two players at 9 million and 11 million, don't be surprised if we go out and buy another two players at 9, 10 million, maybe even more. And then the valuation of the squad starts going up through the roof. And for a business side of it, yeah, you could say that's fantastic. But Celtic have went back the way. And you're thinking, and maybe they feel that they got their bum bitten by paying too much for Adam Ida. Well, that was their fault. That was entirely the board's. But it's a gamble that we seem to be sleepwalking into. Now, the squad's in a great place. I'm looking forward to the season. I think we've got the best squad in Scotland. I think that we'll potentially get off to a good start. But the squad does need a bit of assistance. It's the longevity over the season that I'm more worried about. It is the longevity over the season, over the course of will players manage to see out the full season? I mean, you start talking about a couple of injuries. If Cameron Carter-Vickers gets injured again, we're down to the bare bones. We need another defender in. If someone in midfield gets injured, puts a bit of pressure on them. The only department that we seem a little bit okay is the forward situation just now. The wingers, we need wingers in. It's as mad as that. Celtic have low-willed Barca offering 500 grand for Jamal. if only. Irishman and Porter's in. For his career, it would be probably better. Whether the same goes for us is another thing. I think for him as a player, I think he's given Brendan Rodgers a lot to think about. I think he's the one during this pre-season that's having the Liam Scales effect on Brendan Rodgers. And I think that, Inamura's come in and been a surprise to Brendan Rodgers. But I think that having brought Johnny Kenny back, he's been the real, wait a minute here, what do we do with this lad? Because you've got to remember, the talk towards the end of last season was about putting Johnny Kenny out on loan this season. Brendan Rodgers said that with it was about 5 games to go until Johnny Kenny started coming in and make a difference in games, that Celtic were seriously in a position they'd been talking between the backroom staff is what to do with Johnny Kenny. Do we put him out on loan next season? Well, if you're going to do that, you're going to have to give him a new contract. It's as simple as that. Nobody likes this board who has a clue. Midfield hasn't changed from last season. In fact, we have added with Benji. Yeah, but we're going to play. He came in as a winger, but we're now going to play him as a holding midfield player, which means that we still need 2 wingers in to get the club back to a decent level of staff. Vardy, that's never going to happen. Vardy's never going to happen. Not a chance. Do a press conference, watch along. The press conference isn't live, unfortunately. Have they just put it out? Have Celtic just put it out? Celtic would spit their dummy out, so as Brendan Rodgers has just done an interview. Everything about away clubs in Europe just looks more professional, doesn't it? When you've got the big Ricardo seats, the big comfy seats. The stadiums themselves, obviously, Lake Como is one of the most beautiful places in the world, says Brendan Rodgers, so we're really happy to be here. They're on paper, they're just friendly matches, but you're hoping to get more out of them as a manager. Do you think the pre-season is designed to develop football fitness? And we always say to players, says Brendan Rodgers, I've said to people, when you're at a big club, there is never a friendly, says Brendan. There's always tests for you. So every game we approach, especially towards this end of the latter part of the pre-season, you're really focused on fitness and focused on performing. That's how it's gone for us, says Brendan Rodgers. Over the last few games, we've really upped our level. We want to continue that throughout until the beginning of the season in 11 days' time. You mentioned 11 days left. Is this a time for tinkering tactically or just refining and doubling down on what you did last season? It's a bit of both, said Brendan Rodgers. Last season, we scored a good amount of goals, over the most goals in over 50 years in the football club's history. So that tells you we need to score more goals this year. We need to create lots of opportunities, and you can always improve, says Brendan. It's really reinforcing a lot of the good work that we've already done. We're tweaking our game a little bit, and we're tweaking our game in order to attack, says Brendan. It's attacking football, and he then goes on to say we always want to deliver and look to improve on that every year. Callum, how are you feeling at this stage of pre-season? As the manager says, the last couple of games, says Callum, have been excellent. The players have responded really well, so everyone's feeling good. We're in a good tournament here. Hopefully get another 2 games, and then we'll be ready for the start of the season next week as well. He's asked the question about what you need to do. Firstly, Como has been a great story for the club over the last number of years, says Brendan, watching them come up. The second division, then coming through, obviously the level of they're looking to improve. You've seen some of the results. And then you've obviously got the Says Fabregas side of it. He's a young manager coming to play some fantastic football. When you look at some of his signings, especially two ex-Celtic players, Nico Kuhn, obviously a young player, was with us. Alex Baye as well, he was with us. So yeah, obviously very impressed with the journey that the team is on and the club. I'm just really looking forward to being here and hopefully playing against them, says Callum. Seems to be a bit... How does it feel to be able to see Alex and Nicholas again as his former teammates as well as friends? It's moved on, isn't it? They got chucked out the WhatsApp group. It's like kicking an X out, isn't it? It's like delete. He said on a personal level, says Callum, he says around the ground hotels, playing with each other, you know, he says it's been fantastic, but it's always nice when you see players move on and do really well for themselves. They're also really nice guys, and again, it's football, it's an amazing industry where you get to travel the world, says Callum McGregor, and to meet new people, it broadens your horizons as well. I'm really lucky to be part of this, and it's good to see the guys again so soon. So football's an amazing industry, says Callum McGregor. So that gives you a gist to what Callum and Alex Bayer looks like Gary Barlow from his younger take that days and his new hairdo. Jesus. Square Sausage Mick says, do we really need bollock washer in the team? I don't think we're going to get him, to be honest. 64 games, missed due to injury in 4 seasons by Wisher. I don't think we're going for him, to be honest. I think we would have moved on. But anyway, all the apparent so-called talk was utter pish, says his camp. That's not going to happen. Celtic are in talks with him. So anyway, back to what Brendan Rodgers was saying in the interviews, press conference interviews. Asked about how do you approach learning, and this one's at Callum, different styles and different people, as well as your change of managers. Brendan Rodgers laughed at that. It's working with top level managers, Callum says, who have also been on that journey and managed in the Premier League and managed at the top clubs. You do it every day. You try to learn from all these people that you've got in the building, and the people that come in and people that go as well. People have their differences and different experiences, but I think in football you never have all the answers, says Callum. So after each season you want to improve as a player. I think to have longevity at such a big club like Celtic and keep reinventing yourself and keep pushing and keep driving ourselves each year, because they're always wanting more and more from us, says Callum, talking about being a big player at Celtic and how he's managed to stay at Celtic with the change of so many managers throughout his career. I think we just listen to the cards on it. It's interesting because they're asking, and it's like they're asking Callum about his next steps after his playing career, whether he's going to go into management. When it comes to the time to hang up my boots as a player, then for sure I'll be trying to get as much information as I can to make the next step, whether it be into coaching or management. Calmac for Celtic manager. I could see that happening. I'll definitely see that. That's the first time Callum's been asked directly about his future after, I mean, he's still got a couple of seasons left on him at Celtic, but it's always interesting when you get foreign journalists just mixing it up a bit, asking completely different questions and getting into real nitty-gritty stuff that the Scottish media just don't do. Brendan Rodgers is now talking to say, come on, if you've seen Italian football grounds, there is blood in Italy. Blood in the grounds, they're all mental. Whatever ground you go to, you think here at this stadium, in this arena, of course, having been on this journey. So every game, says Brendan Rodgers, is really exciting. Of course, it's a pre-season tournament with teams that should really make a really exciting few days, says Brendan Rodgers. So he's really looking forward to it, Brendan, which is fantastic. Really buzzing about it. Really relaxed. Brendan Rodgers looking really relaxed. Callum McGregor looking really relaxed as well. We've been to other places in Italy, steeped in history and passion and football, says Brendan. What do you expect growth like coaching career about, says Fabregas? Huh? Asking him about Fabregas. What's the loss of Nico Kuhn been to you? Ha! We're still fucking trying to get a winger in, you tosser. He says that Sebs was a fantastic player. I seen him as a 16-year-old player playing for Arsenal, and then coming through the academy. It's been a fantastic journey that he's been on. Sometimes when you've been a top player, doesn't always guarantee that you can go into coaching. But when you talk to him and you speak to the latter in his career, you always knew that he was going to go in. He wanted to be on that journey, so he started here at an amazing club. He clearly loves it. He loves life here, and he loves the football, and that's the beginning of his journey. Yes, says Fabregas for next Celtic manager. Just putting it out there. If you want to go down that, if we've got a close connection with Como, come on over to my place, says Fab. We're having a party. We'll be singing, dancing and swinging when Fabregas comes home tonight. Not that I'm trying to get rid of Brendan, but Fabregas would be a fantastic manager. Brendan Rodgers still talking, saying that he's talking about the qualities of Kuhn, and he's gone now. Really good teammates with Callum and his teammates. I helped him improve. When you play for such a big club like Celtic, you become a winner. So after 18 months, he's done fantastic and he's a winner. Now, Como, what are you going to do with him? He's a good guy. He has lots of qualities, as Nico Kuhn. He fucking spat the dummy out. Tell them as it is. Just Brendan, just say he was fantastic the first half of the season, and then he was pissed the second half of the season. I mean, could you imagine Brendan doing that? What was Kuhn? Fantastic player, brilliant, fucking tremendous the first half of the season. Spat the dummy out when Jota came in and never kicked the ball the second half of the season. That's why we sold him for 17 million. But allegedly, that deal had been in the pipeline for such a long time. Also, it had, God, I'm trying to keep up with the chat. It's flying through. Check out Roman's third kit. There was hundreds of chat came through. I hadn't checked it for a while. But yeah, Nico Kuhn has said that Como were actually interested in Kuhn before Celtic bought him. They had been in talks with Nico Kuhn, but Celtic came in and jumped in first and paid the money for him. So he'd spoke to Fabregas way before, but obviously at that point, Como were down a league or two, and he didn't fancy going down to that level. So as soon as they've got up to the top level in Italy, he's went, all right, Fab, how you doing, my man? Something like that. Como scores again. Ajax needs slaughtered. I'm going for 3-0 hoops. 3-0 the hoops. Let me see what else Brendan Rodgers is finishing off the interview saying. Callum's talking about the lifestyle. You learn a new language about moving. Scottish football is brilliant. Some amazing guys. I've obviously worked with the two players that we're talking about. I've worked with people in the national team level, and it's always good. Hello, first of all, I just want to express my condolences to the club for John Fallon. Says that's a bit of respect. It's nice that journalist done that. You would never get a Scottish journalist doing that. The very first press conference after it, sending his condolences. How can we improve in the Champions League? You just want it to dominate. Brendan Brendan Rodgers is saying, I think as a football club, we aim to improve every single season, says Brendan, talking about the Champions League this year. We didn't dominate last year. We only won 2 out of 3 trophies in Scotland. We were competitive in Europe, but we need to change that and meet it at that level. It's important for us for consistency. We believe that we can be better this season on the domestic front, and also we can take those experience we've had over the last couple of seasons into Europe and look to perform again very, very well, says Brendan. Celtic want the treble. Brendan wants the treble. Celtic is a huge club, says Brendan Rodgers. You can never stand still. It always moves at really, really fast speed. You have to move with it. You have to improve. It's all about developing. And for me as a coach, says Brendan Rodgers, it is about getting the best. And hopefully we'll see that in the team format. The team format. The change of team. Callum McGregor asked about changing of managers again. He says the relentless nature of the club. Managers come, managers go. We are a fast-moving club. You never know where you get left. If you stand still, you get left behind. Some of the players individually have come in to push. They understand that every year we have a target. It becomes bigger and bigger for the opponents to take you off it. So you know what the baseline is. You have to win to continue to progress. They want a treble. The fighting talk has started. Come on. Yes. They want a treble. The talk of the treble is on. And then that's it. Fabregas mentioned a conversation around 90% of his transfer business. He'd completed. Oh, Jesus. Fabregas and Como have done 90% of their business. Brendan Rodgers says we still have some work to do. Players that are in the building have been very, very good this pre-season. And but like I say, there was still a lot of work to do in the market, says Brendan. I think it's very clear where we have gaps in our front line. We need support and strength. I'm very confident we will be able to do that before the market finishes. Brendan Rodgers, media conference, Como, summer 2025. What a shit way to end an interview. So that's Brendan Rodgers talking about. Says Fabregas has said that Como have done 90% of the. Why can't Celtic? Do you know that's a club that backs their manager, that gets the players in that he wants. To have completed 90% of their transfer business already before season starts. I mean, their season, I don't know if their season starts the week after ours. But Celtic are way off. And Brendan Rodgers asked about it, and Brendan Rodgers then says, look, it needs to be in Brave console. So Brendan Rodgers admitting that there's still a lot of business to do. Right, we've got 279 votes. Let me see if we can get up to 300 before we finish this evening. There has been over 1,700 people on the live, so thank you very much for that. Dan Gassie's in the house. So what do you make of Brendan Rodgers? Brendan Rodgers is wanting a big name striker. For the fact that he's still talking about he's wanting firepower up front, it is a weird one. Because when you look at the squad, I mean, where does he... I mean, he's obviously wanting wingers in, right? I mean, we need someone in to replace Jota, right? We know we've got an issue there. Marco Tilio, if he's going to leave, that means we need 2 wingers in just to keep us at a decent level. And then if Johnny Kenny goes out on loan, it means that we're going to bring in another striker anyway, because I'm still unsure if Shin Yamada is going to be our main striker or he's going to be a winger. I don't think that any of us really know what his favourite position. I mean, he's just described as a forward. And let's face it, 32 goals and 121 appearances is not a prolific goal scorer, is it? It is a bit of a wonder. It is a bit of a wonder, right? We're at 288 votes. I need 12 votes for Van Hesselhink. Is he available? I think we need somebody a little bit younger. A little bit younger than that. So the upside, Brendan Rodgers and Callum McGregor. So the big takeaway from the press conference this evening is obviously Callum McGregor being asked about what his plans are for the tail end of his career, and will he go into football management? And he says that once he finally, that's an interesting one. Why did they ask Callum that? I suppose Callum's still got 2 years left on his contract. Is Callum going to hang up the boots in those 2 years and then hand over the reins to Kieran Tierney as Celtic captain? That's interesting. Anyway. Right, I need 5 votes on the poll. It's sitting, should Johnny Kenny be put out on loan? The reason that I did the poll is right at the beginning of the video, about an hour ago, there is an article about Bolton are still on the hunt for Johnny Kenny, having had a £500,000 offer rejected for the former Shamrock Rovers attacker earlier in the transfer window. And they said that Brendan Rodgers is seemingly weighing up whether to keep Johnny Kenny as part of Celtic's first team squad for next season or send him out on loan, rather than sanction the sale for the 22-year-old player. His performances have become impressive, especially in friendlies against Sporting and Newcastle, and that has further delayed any possible move by Celtic to ship the player out. That has left Bolton Wanderers in a position where they're still waiting whether to make a move for Johnny Kenny. He will be moved south of the border on loan. It's leaving them little time to get a new player in before the start of the new season. Deals expected to be done later in the window as at Bolton, as there are other areas of the squad that need a bit of fine tuning. So this one, they are saying they do not expect this deal for Johnny Kenny on loan until later in the transfer window. And that's why Brendan Rodgers is still trying to get in another striker. So that's interesting. That is really interesting. And we're bang on the 300 votes. Thank you to everyone who voted for that tonight. Johnny Kenny, should he be put on loan? 72% say no. 28% say yes, and over 300 votes. This window's a pain, says Estapona Boy. We need Desmond to dig deep for a big name striker. I don't think though. Loan to Bolton definitely sold. Absolutely not. I would put him on loan down to Bolton. I think that it would be good to see his progress. But anyway, whatever happens, Celtic need to get him tied up on a brand new contract first, because he's out of contract at the end of the season. Anyway, that is me done and dusted for this evening. Big thank you to everyone who ultimately came on board and watched this live tonight. I will be live for the game tomorrow. We will be starting early as usual, where we'll be getting the team news as it is announced. On that note, have an absolutely fantastic evening, Celtic fans, wherever you are, all around the world.